to the fine edition of my so-called 8-Bit Life. I'm your host, Roberto Villegas. Joining me today, now semi-published comic book creator. Yeah, I mean, semi put out there in some capacity.
Yeah.
Joe Compton, how's it going, sir?
Doing well. How about yourself?
Pretty good. I cannot complain. It's funny thinking back to this now because I think it might not have been the last time you were here, but it might have been a while back.
Yeah.
When you had showed off the I guess what do you want to call it? Like
the rough pages and
right,
whatnot.
like the template comic book thing. And we're kind of talking about this for those who don't know, recently Joe Compton here, Kimono Joe in certain circles, had actually published, at least self-published on Lulu.com, a comic book he'd been working on.
Yeah.
But the interesting part about said comic book was that you had started it off with like this sketchbook that's specifically made for comic books. Like it had like the panels set out and stuff like that. Like you're kind of limited to pages and you have a certain kind of, layout for each one. But you had did that. It's like, well, let me see if I can actually do this. Let me see what it would take to do a comic, even if just an idea of those sort of things. And so, lo and behold, you do that, and it's funny looking at it now and going like. So let's rewind back time a bit.
Okay.
Especially because that. When you got it complete, was your mission always to publish it? Like, was it in some, not necessarily like, the grand, maybe not so much like a paperback or like getting, sending it to Marvel and team.
Oh yeah, no, they'd probably send it back and say like, maybe better luck next time, buddy.
Let's do this. Let's say you had the ability to actually, let's say that God has smiled upon you, the genie has granted you the one wish, and you're able to get it published by somebody. Who would you think would publish your comic? Like, let's say, I mean, obviously,
I would say it would have to be like someone a little bit more on the lower side and probably like closer to the indie community.
Right.
So I would say like I would probably have best chances with something like Oni Comics or Dark Horse, possibly to a degree Image, but now they're starting to get up in the big leagues with DC and Marvel right now.
Yeah, I guess that's true. I think we kept muted by accident. I think I might have kept our mic muted while we did the whole thing, so I apologize, people, for that. There we go. We're back on.
Oh.
The audio is fine, so don't worry. Ironically enough, it will be totally cool for the full version. But you there in live land didn't hear any of that.
Sorry, folks.
That happens. It happens. I was talking about in the pre-show. I have this cool new device that I need to actually configure for the mic. There's a couple of things I have set up on the Mac to be a little bit easier that don't work so well when you only have one camera shot, so to speak, here in the desktop. But I'll fix that tonight. This is actually the first time I've used it here, specifically on the desktop PC. But going back to that, we're talking, for those who were watching live and missed every bit of audio we said, we were talking about Joe's new comic and things like that. So specifically, he's self-published a comic that he had done through, and there's previews we had him on where he literally has this sort of sketchbook that was laid out in comic book panels and various layouts, each one, and he took it upon himself as a challenge to say, well, can I make, at the very base level, a comic book? Can I make this sort of design? And here we are. It's interesting. I find it fascinating when you're doing it. When you got the whole thing completed, like, because you can't really go back and edit that thing the way it was set up. Is there anything you wish you had done differently?
There's like certain parts in the, particularly near the ending, there was like the big fight scene that I had in the comic. I wish I could have gone back and like kind of fleshed that out a little bit more.
Okay.
Only because it felt like it was over way too quickly. Like, I don't know, like I must have spent 7 pages out of the 48 pages that the booklet had. And to me, it just felt like, dang, I wish I could have gone back to
to add more pages.
Yeah.
Interesting, because usually people feel they need to cut things down. I guess in comic book is different, especially because because I always think of when it comes to like fight sequences, like the thing that everybody, and maybe this was a 90s thing, maybe I guess it's still the same way this way now, where the full page spread.
Oh yeah,
You know, where
the
that's
splash
like,
page. and
right,
whatnot.
exactly.
Yeah.
Where that's like usually in the middle of the comic, and it's just both pages just and it's the clashing of the swords or whatever the hell.
Yeah.
Because usually people cut down stuff. Like you felt you wanted to add more.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, with something like a big splash page, though, it looks really nice and it takes up a lot of space. But to me, sometimes you kind of lose stuff within that.
Right.
Because, as opposed to, like, particularly in a lot of mangas, since they tend to have, like, a lot of action fighting scenes, they'll, like, try to, like, add, like, a lot of small panels within a page just so they can convey, like, a lot of motion and movement going on in a fight.
Yeah.
As opposed to, like, a Marvel and DC book where there will be the big, huge spread as, like, two people are about to collide with each other.
Yeah, that's definitely an interesting way of doing it. And I mean, especially when it comes to that, it's weird because again, when you did it the first time, I was like, "That's cool. It's interesting layout." I didn't even know you were planning to put. I mean, put it out there. Like, I guess the question is like, why put it out there? And like, Lulu was just the easiest.
Yeah, I wasn't sure since it's my first time publishing things. Like, I thought about maybe putting it up on Amazon, but like, I wasn't sure if I'd be able to set it as being free because I didn't want like a barrier of entry.
Well, because again, this isn't your mission with this wasn't to make it a commercial work.
Yeah.
Not saying that because you don't have aspirations to make commercial works, but because this was your sort of first attempt at how you would approach a comic, it makes sense to put it for free, especially in like a PDF form.
Oh yeah, because I do see oftentimes like, especially like, because when you go to Staple, there are like some really talented people and they got some really amazing books out there. There does tend to be a little bit of a problem with them, like the price point of their books. And I know I can't hold that against them because they're doing it all by themselves. They're having to put in so much work to get these things. But it's that problem of like trying to justify spending like $10 on what would be like a 40-page comic that's in black and white.
Right. And this is not to say that, because again, you make the point of they did it themselves, and a lot of times it's indie publishers, and sometimes it's they're literally at the Kinko's printing these things out, types of things, which is commendable, and all that stuff is included. But you make a good point of the idea of how that cost works, and a lot of people don't think of that. But as when it's a digital file, you scan it once and it's
just
everyone,
put it up there.
Right, it's everyone on the planet, and we're at that kind of time where you don't have to think about that. I mean, and it's like, well, I don't have a scanner, but I can go to FedEx or whatever, go off Office Supply, say scan, wherever the fuck you want to go, get it scanned. You have a PDF, and it's like, well, anyone grab it, enjoy, and it's a matter of where you host it, kind of thing. And even that being said, a lot of times, like especially when it comes to like game developers, it's always hard to get your first thing purchased because it's your first thing.
Oh yeah.
And that's I think with every creative work, it's like, well, that seems cool, but do I want to, because usually that's why you see things like I know I have a lot of friends who've made books and have done sort of digital versions of them and sold them for like as their first thing like 99 cents. Yeah. Because it's like, well, it's $1. Who cares? You don't think too much about it. You're like, yeah, it's fine. $1's good. And because of that, they've gotten, like, wow, it's really good. And friends tell, and it sort of spreads, and they kind of make their name known. Yeah. And even at Staple, usually it's like, at least when the things I would see, it would be like, oh yeah, it's $5 or it's like $1. It's like, okay, that's no big deal. Here's $1. Here's $5. Like that's a commendable average price in my opinion, especially for those sorts of things, for comic books and that kind of thing. Like kind of rolling back again to the whole drawing thing. When you're how did you go about scanning it? Did you like because I saw the book itself is kind of a little kind of not hard, but like it's not meant. Could you took it? Was it easy to take apart? I guess I should ask.
Oh, it was stapled.
It didn't look that. I remember it wasn't that.
It was stapled and bound with like a little like cardboard.
That's why I remember it was something like actually like it felt like a really weighty kind of sketchbook, which is good for weight sketchbook. But I remember like that was it was weird that I was like, how did he scan this? Just thinking that.
Yeah.
Did you go like through it and touch it up a bit? Like,
Oh yeah. I
digitally
have
ink
a
it?
program at home called Clip Studio Paint, which is like a good drawing program alternative to something like Photoshop.
Right.
And I just went through, scanned all the images, like adjusted some things, made some corrections,
Right.
fixed up the kind of like contrast and the brightness just so I can like get the ink lines so that they are not as like streaky looking and look a little bit more solid.
Right.
And then
because you have the ability to do some digital touch ups and whatnot. I mean, that's normal for every. I don't know of any piece of comic media that doesn't have some sort of like touch up added to it. Or some sort of digital component to it, whether it be digital coloring, digital inking. I don't even know if these are. I mean, it's just I don't know of any artist that doesn't do that kind of thing. By the way, if you're watching live, because two people are watching live somewhere in the planet, if you have any questions for Joe, especially if you're your own kind of aspiring comic person, maybe you've wanted to make your own, maybe you just need that push, maybe you're an artist and that's what you want to do in life. Maybe it's not what you want to do in life. Feel free to ask there in the chat room. We'll be watching live. We actually have all three chats are there from Facebook to YouTube to Twitch. So whichever you're watching on, you feel free to say hi.
All right.
It's I'm still kind of fascinated that you did this, not in a good way, and just a. I guess I should ask this because I know what else you do. Do you plan to do another comic book?
Yes. There's like one that I'm starting to kind of get roughed out a little bit.
Okay.
It's going to be for an anthology set because every year, me and a group of friends who used to like collaborate together from like back on the Spill website.
Okay.
Like, I don't know if you remember any of them, but it was like Jordan Worth Cobbs, TC
Yeah,
DeWitt.
I remember. I could never forget Cobb.
Oh yeah.
I don't think anyone can forget Cobb. I don't know where the hell some of these guys are anymore. I mean, they're probably here for other various things, but I can never forget Jordan Worth Cobb in a heartbeat.
But like for the past couple of years, we've been working together on like anthology books that like we put up a theme and then we just write something around that.
Okay.
And same thing, we kind of put it up on Lulu as a free PDF for people to check out. Last year, I had a small comic that I submitted to it. Like, so technically, the one that I just put out today is kind of sort of my second. But the first one was in that anthology set. Then, so I'm doing another one for this one that we got coming up because I just kind of put out like, hey, can we maybe pick out a theme so we can kind of work on them now? Because every year I would routinely be late on the deadline.
Right, well, because if your theme's like, and it's due in a week, and your theme is going to be pickles, it's like, how the fuck do I make something about pickles?
Exactly.
Or anything for that matter. And usually those things, like, I'm surprised, like, how late would you usually have a theme? Like, let's say.
Generally, like, maybe, because we would start it in November, because, November's the National Novel Writing Month kind of deal.
Yeah.
So we would probably get the theme a little bit before then.
Oh, yeah. Okay, and then you'd make sort of a national comic book.
Well, for this, it was just, like, I was the only one who submitted a comic. Everyone else, like, just submitted, like, actual, like,
okay.
short stories
I
and
gotcha,
whatnot.
I gotcha. Okay, so you're the crazy one, okay.
Yeah, I just thought I'd try something new and something
No,
unique
that's
with it.
fair.
Yeah.
So, okay, let's kind of go to the new stuff, because I like talking about new. Not because old isn't good. Old is interesting, because it's up there. We'll put a link in the show notes where you can find it by the people. But do you plan to do it again with the same sketch thing, or do you plan to sort of have more free reign this time go around?
More free reign this time around. Because, I mean, the limitations of the first book were at least good for a starting point, because it takes some of the guesswork out of it.
Right, like how you lay something out. We talked about this last time, but the idea of the sketchbook is, imagine, if you will, a sketchbook. Except in said sketchbook, there are these pages that have sort of what we would like to call traditional comic book layout things, like a 4-panel, a 5-panel, whatever, various numbers, and sort of forces you to utilize those panels as you would see fit to do said comic book.
Yeah.
Okay, continue.
So this time around, I plan to at least maybe just like go at it myself. Like I haven't fully thumbnailed it out, but I'm probably aiming to make this one maybe 15, 20 pages long instead of like 48 pages.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's not bad. That's actually, I mean, it's interesting that take on doing. Let's make sure it checks out really quick. Oh, okay. I was just people are just liking the video. That's okay. But it's interesting. It's always a fun take on that project. It was one thing I liked about just how you approached it was just this sort of doing it in that kind of like, here's the layout, here's what I'm stuck with, not in a bad way, but in like, here's my limitations, how do I work within said limitation, especially if you're starting out, your first comic book or your second one, or even one you're like, well, this is my first like not based on other properties or thing, whatever. Man, I'm curious now about your second one. What's the idea for it? Can you tease it?
Yeah, sure. Well, I can tell you a little bit about what I got going for it.
Sure.
Well, the theme that, like, I suggested the theme because this was something I kind of wanted to do from the get-go. It's, like I was saying, can we do, like, a theme around, like, robots, AIs, cyborgs, androids, all that kind of stuff? Like, just kind of...
everything that's in the news right now.
Yeah. Because for the longest time, there was been, like, a kind of story I wanted to tell loosely based off of my own interpretation of the last Daft Punk album...
random
access
right,
memories.
Right.
Yeah.
Sorry, my brain does the thing.
Yeah.
Where it goes, it can only be read-only memories because that's no, it's random access memory. Like my brain has those.
Yeah.
You get the idea. Anyway, so the latest Daft Punk album.
Yeah. There's a particular song on it called Touch, and basically I wanted to build a story based around my own interpretation of what the song was and all.
Oh, interesting.
Because what I had in mind was like the loose parts of the story is there was a person who was a sculptor in their life, and when the story starts out, they had just suffered an accident. They're taken to the hospital. Time passes, and eventually they have to pull the plug on them because they can't recover from it. Then suddenly this artist wakes up like so many years in the future, finding out that they have had their brain more or less uploaded into a robot body because of the museum that they worked with had started some kind of weird contract where they're like, hey, we had all these famous people that never got to finish a work of art of them. How about we bring them back to life and have them finish their artwork and all that?
That's weird.
Yeah, but particularly for this artist that I have, they were a sculptor, so they had to work with their hands.
Right.
And now they're in this robotic body with only like kind of synthetic like
robot
touch.
Hands.
Yeah. Like that's at least the initial concept I have going for it.
That's an interesting concept because I never thought of. Because usually that when it comes to the singularity, like the concept of uploading your brain and kind of having backup versions of yourself, usually the subjects know that their brain's being uploaded stuff. That almost kind of reminds me a little bit of Nick Valentine out of Fallout 4, and that the robot of the synth that is Valentine was based off of the brain pattern of a pre-war, hard-boiled, detective kind of person. I've never thought of what that would be like if that really happened, especially like an artist of who's used to like that. That's really. I'm now interested in that more so than I thought I was going to be. Only because I'm just like, well, who knows what Joe's going to do? It could be anything. And knowing your interests and knowing, we usually have similar interests. Yeah. But you never know. But that idea of having, sort of dying, if you will.
Yeah. And being involuntarily brought back to life in a strange new timeline or time period.
Not even just that. Just the idea of like, what? Yeah. You want me to do what?
Yeah.
Why?
And more or less being put on display as like, hey, this is going to be a big show for everyone. Let's just watch these people work on stuff. And just like that whole, this is all new to me. I don't know why I'm here.
Yeah, all that kind of weird thing of just like because there's so many things you could do with that, where you could have so much fun with it in terms of how you imagine the future of media to be, or how you imagine the future of certain things. Yeah, it's a museum, and yeah, they're doing this, but they're on display to do something else, and it's like, and when the museum's closing in 3 minutes, and it's just like, do they go back?
It's one part museum, and then it's like one part zoo almost.
Right, exactly, and it's
standing around staring at them.
Right, and then you have the idea of like this person who's used to being free and some like there's a lot to work with. I'm not going to guess what your ideas are, but there's a lot of implications. The idea of, well, what would happen if those sort of things, like what would happen if we brought Picasso back for our entertainment? Like what would we ask him, and more importantly, what would he do? I was thinking right now, and the reason I came in my mind. I think is it in RoboCop, where they have all the before they make RoboCop, like all the different versions they had, and they have one guy with they'd put basically a human brain in this weird robot body, and he's just screaming, and he pulls his head off or something that. Like that's my thing. It's like there's a lot of there's potentials for interesting humor points. Just the idea of are you playing it's all gonna be fictional artists and whatnot, like the thing?
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, they're gonna be loosely inspired by various people. There was one director I wanted to put in there. He was a person who never got to finish this film of his, and the person's gonna be loosely based off of Satoshi Kon, because he passed away while in the midst of working on his next film, which was called The Dreaming Machine.
Right, exactly. I mean, again, it's that idea of having of dying and then waking up elsewhere. And not only just waking up congratulations, you're in the year 2528 or whatever. It's like, congratulations, you're not only in the year 2528, but you're also on display for everyone, and you have to finish this work. And it's I what now? What if I don't want to finish the work? Well, we're gonna power you down. What do you do? How over the idea of this is just it's not making us as much money as we thought it was. There's so many implications of what that would mean. And I always think of Jurassic Park, the one part that everyone glosses over, I think, in that movie, is the idea that I forgot the character's name, but Newman's character, we all know him as that from freaking Seinfeld, really was kind of just there to try to steal a whole bunch of embryos so other people could make a shitload of money. That was the only reason everything went wrong, was because he was given this shaving cream can that looked like that was basically meant to hold cryogenically hold embryos in them, so, so they could study them and make their own freaking dinosaurs if it's true and whatnot. And that was it. That was all this business profit kind of stuff, and everyone kind of glosses over that. Where I think Jurassic World doesn't, because it's well, we got Jurassic Park working now. And here's the amusement park, and everyone's visiting and buying T-shirts and all that kind of crap. And so
you would have expected, at least within the many sequels they had, that they could have had a story about some of the rival people being hey, let's go capture some and just start our own goddamn.
But that's why I at least to a certain degree I enjoyed that aspect in Jurassic World existing, the idea of here's the actual fucking park, and it actually is working, not the idea of well, guess what? There was another site B, where nothing really happened, but shit's going down, and it's really that's the plot of, okay. Because again, that's there are interesting aspects to the idea of here you are, famous person, because I mean we're because I think you think of now and even the idea of the Hall of Presidents at fucking Disney World. It's I am Abraham Lincoln, blah 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 blah. I am, they're not really them. They're freaking electronic things. But the idea of what that means and sort of that, and if we had the ability to say bring back to life in that kind of form, if you will, an animatronic or a robot or whatever of somebody famous. Especially if it's these are known, in this world, these are known artists that never completed their works, and they're that kind of thing. And it's oh shit, you're that person, and then you start talking with them, and
Yeah.
they're just like, why?
Yeah,
You know,
like
they're not only scared 8 different ways. I always think of the. I know the time was because they've been in the news, but do you remember the South Park episode where they had the frozen?
oh yeah, the guy who was frozen in the 90s or like the 80s or something like
No,
that.
no, it was frozen like it wasn't even the 80s. It wasn't anything useful. It was like 2 years.
Oh,
before.
that's right. It was just like 2 years.
It was like something so like he's been frozen for 2 years.
Yeah,
like
now
he-
I remember.
Like it was such like this minuscule amount of time. But they were making all fun of the 90s with that. Even though
yeah,
it was set
like
in the 90s.
talking about how primitive he was. Like
Yeah.
here he is using AOL to connect to the internet.
And it's like we still use AOL at the time. Like,
Yeah.
all these kind of weird things. I always loved that just gag of like, frozen in time since whatever the hell. It's kind of cool to see that. Yeah, that sounds cool. That
Thank
sounds really. That sounds a lot more. I'm not saying in a bad way. Just like that sounds actually like something I want to see made. I never. Wow, that's. I mean, it's such a. Do you have any? Have you thought about the world that would present itself to have robot downloaded versions of that? I guess I should ask, how deep are you into the world, or for this to have the world building into it? Or
there's not going to be too
Oh.
much in it since it
Okay.
is going to be a short
story,
story.
right.
Like it's mostly going to be a little bit in what's the artist's like current time, like because it'll like start off with like them already in the midst of the accident as like their loved one comes and finds them like collapsed on the ground,
right.
and then like just the scene in the hospital to show they've been like more or less like had their life support unplugged for them. Then
then-
just turn a page, they're up. It's been nearly 200 something years later,
God
and
damn.
it's just gonna be within like
Right within the sphere of things.
yeah, within like the museum as like they're just being kept on like
If after
display
all
for it.
this is done and you've done your new idea and it's all completed and you've enjoyed yourself in it, do you plan
Yeah.
to expand upon? Would you want to expand upon that world?
I don't know necessarily, only because like there's a lot of concepts and ideas, like, and not even just like in a cyberpunk or futuristic setting kind of deal. I mean, I could always go back to it at any point, but it's just like one of those minor things. Like, there's so much I want to do. Like, it was just some concept I had a few years ago of more or less like the movie True Grit, but set in kind of a pseudo-apocalyptic fantasy world.
Okay.
Where more or less like the main character is like former famed bounty hunter who's now a zombie, like owned by a voodoo priest or something.
Okay,
who's just, like,
that's way off the rails right
Yeah.
there.
well, no, only because it's like the idea, like the concept was that he's like kind of almost in the same way. Like I'm now just realizing that it's thematically kind of similar to that robot story, only because it's like he's been dead and he owes a debt to this one guy who pretty much owns his soul and has to
Right.
like bring him back to life. And it's like, hey, some of my people in my clan have been kidnapped. You're going out to get them and whatnot because
That's weird.
the dude just owns that guy's soul and all that.
Right.
Yeah.
God, there's so much in that. I'm sorry if I went off. I love the idea of having, like, there's a lot I can
see
see for a world like that could be fun
Yeah.
to play with.
Yeah.
But again, that's just me as
Yeah.
other story writer.
Yeah.
But
And plus, like, it falls into a genre that's not tapped into as much as I would like to be,
Well,
which
yeah.
is called the weird westerns, where it is just like it's a western setting, but gets a little bit more into like a little bit fantasy. Most of the time, they just kind of stick within like a horror realm, but not like an actual like.
well, because I think
fantasy
Western is starting to make a revival,
Oh, yeah.
as it were. I mean, it never died and it
Mhm.
never kind of went out of fashion, but because of things like Westworld,
Yeah.
I'm starting to see it kind of make more of a revival, and I think fantasy itself is
Mhm.
also making a revival. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously, Game of Thrones is a
Yeah,
huge reason why.
Yeah.
It never they went out of style, but like when there's always those like cycles of things.
Mm-hmm.
And Weird Western might be fun to do, especially with like
Oh, yeah.
the idea of having a Western where magic does exist, where
Yeah.
all these things are known to be part of it.
Oh yeah,
And
like Because one of the scenes I had plotted out in my head was like, the whole walks into a bar, record scratch as like everyone's staring at him. Sits down, and he's like asking for a drink despite the fact that he's still dead.
Yeah.
Bar keeps like pointing at a sign of like undead, not allowed.
Right.
And him just looking at it like, in my previous life, I wasn't good at reading either, so what's it say?
What was that? Wasn't there a TV show that did that whole thing where it was like a Western except with, because there was that one really Western steampunky thing with what's his face, Bruce Campbell.
Oh,
I forgot the name of the show.
Mm.
Because that had a little bit of steampunky elements to it, right? I think.
I can't remember. Like, I have vague memories of this.
Yeah, I can't remember it either. But I remember that there was like those moments of just weird, like steampunky things, and that's usually where people tend to lean to.
Yeah.
But I know, like, I know that they've done like Lovecraft-esque things in Western world. But I can't remember the damn TV show that did that really well. That was on Sci-Fi. It'll probably come to me eventually.
Yeah.
Wait, was it Torchwood? Not Torch.
No, Torchwood was the Doctor Who spinoff.
Right. Okay. God damn, it's like there's so many damn things. There's so many of these freaking shows. Well, that sounds cool. That sounds really interesting. We're gonna switch gears only because we're midway show, and I feel I need to at least do something topical. Not saying that your comic book isn't topical, but it's definitely something I need to still read over. But I'm happy. I'm glad you published it. I'm glad you got it done. I am now excited for your new thing.
Thank you.
Not that. But did you happen to catch the Nintendo Direct today?
No, I didn't even know it was going on until you brought it up.
It's funny, because like with every other Nintendo Direct, there's always the rumors that come about, and it's always it's funny to see everyone go through the cycle of now understanding that because Nintendo is on a roll that they don't have to pander to them anymore.
Oh yeah.
I say that with the idea of so there's a lot of there's a rumor going around that there's could be there, and every fucking Nintendo Direct has this, by the way. I laugh where it's like, did you hear they're gonna announce Mother 3? They're gonna fucking port it to Switch or some shit, whatever the fuck. It's gonna release it. It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. It's like, it's not gonna fucking happen.
Yeah.
Not in a bad way. It's just like Nintendo's fucking roll. Like Nintendo's at a point now.
Mm-hmm.
And if we were to go back before the Switch came out, like when the Wii U was the system, Nintendo's at a point now where the biggest thing that has come out of Nintendo as big news that everyone's losing their shit over is that in the summer you can buy that Nintendo Mini again.
Oh yeah.
Like, do you understand? Like they for some reason this year they're able to print money again.
Yeah. And I mean, I guess it's a good thing since like the Wii U, a lot of people like to give them shit for that. Saying, like it was a bad console and all that, which personally I didn't have.
It wasn't a terrible console. It just had a lot of problems.
Yeah. But now, like with the Switch and how they've released maybe a handful of games, all of which have done super well for them. Like, like Breath of the Wild, the new Splatoon game,
Splatoon 2,
and even like
the new
ARMS,
IIP
for it.
Yeah, like ARMS looks really fun, and it's weird in that when I see that, and now I see like Twitter's like, oh man, no new Animal Crossing, or oh crap, we're not getting there's no Mother game, or all these sort of like, well, that wasn't exciting. There's no Pokemon on Switch. I go in my brain, I go, they don't have to. Like we're at a point now where they're printing money, with just making. Literally package, literally $60. Here, buy some old Super Nintendo games again.
Yeah.
This cool little package. Here, buy some old Nintendo games.
Provided that you can actually go and get one.
Right, but the point of the idea being that these are all being sold to the high heavens and then some. And it's not even Nintendo wants to do it to price gouge. It's just like we just can't make enough because we're still trying to make enough. This other product that's selling like hotcakes too.
Oh, yeah.
And it's so funny that it's just like. Being a fan of things like Mother and Earthbound and everything else like that, like when it came out for the Wii U, I was like, oh wow, they pulled that pin. Yeah, it's gotten that bad as a joke. Like I remember when I made the joke when it came to the Final Fantasy VII remake when they're like, they showed the spiky hair in
Yeah.
Midgar. I was like, oh shit, they pulled that pin. It's gotten that. It's we're at that point now. Because Kingdom Hearts 3 wasn't, because 15 wasn't out by then, and we're, Kingdom Hearts 3 is still at that time a distant memory. That hopefully one day will come out.
I still am holding on to the idea that it's never going to come out.
It'll come out. It will come out.
It's now just a...
Oh, no. It will come out. It will probably be next year. It will come out because...
The thing I just worry now is that there's so much hype behind it
that
it cannot live up anywhere near
I don't know if
it.
it's going to live up to whatever everyone's expectation is on said game. That's neither here nor there. But Kingdom Hearts 3 will come out. It will be for sale. You will be able to buy it. Whether or not it is the game that you want is an entirely different matter.
Yeah, and that's the thing that scares me more than anything. I mean, I've only played the first two. I haven't played any of the spin-offs and whatnot.
Yeah, I mean, and that same here is that I was chatting with I kind of hang out with the RT Austin people, and a lot of them are some of them are younger in terms of things, and a lot of the audience there, like their first games were like either the Game Boy Advance version or the DS version or even the PSP versions and things like that, and even some of those were like older. And I only think some of them have just started playing like 1 and 2 because they got
the HD remakes.
Right, exactly. And so it's interesting to see all these things happen and see these, because I'm fascinated with how the game is going to work out. But it's one of those things where I don't know if it's going to live up to the hype. I don't even know if it can live up to the hype.
I don't think it'll end up living up to that.
I don't even know if the hype even matters.
It still might be a solid game,
right?
But there's going to be like the people that are blindly will love it, and then the moment someone makes any kind of criticism about it, they'll jump all over them. Weeks go by, then everyone's
I'm
like,
hopeful.
Okay,
I'll be honest. I am excited for the game coming out, not because of what it is, but because it's like one of the first Square Enix like titles that we would assume we would traditionally associate with Square Enix coming out on the Unreal Engine. That kind of excites me. Yeah. Because, 15 was the last time you'd ever see the Crystal Engine come out, and and I think that's for the best. I think that engine did a great job, and did a great as good of a job as any video game engine could, and just got horribly screwed over because of the fact that the last game to utilize it spanned 2 consoles generations, and that's never good for that's never good for any engine. It's never good for any piece of code. It's like if you have code that's like the joke when it came to like Duke Nukem Forever, it's just like there's literally objects in there that had never been seen, never seen the light of day since like the PS2 or whatever. I was like, it's like that. I was like, wow, that's fucking long time to have those fucking models chilling around.
Now, here's one thing though. If you were to place a bet, do you think at the end of Kingdom Hearts 3 they'll tease a Kingdom Hearts 4?
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, please. This is, of course they are. Like, do they like making money?
I'm at that point.
Does
where...
Disney like making money? Do all these companies like making money? Then yeah, of course. I mean, there's fucking Tron World in this shit. They're gonna. There's probably I won't be. There's gonna be fucking Tron World if there's not Jack Sparrow in there. Or there's like if there's not an Avatar land. Like, I mean, fuck. Like, this is Disney. Like this is the first one they had like fucking Star Wars and Marvel World. They could have fucking. They could have Sora with an Iron Man Keyblade. That'd be kind of pimp, actually. Actually, I want this
if
now.
anything, though...
Actually, now, what the fuck am I talking about?
I would hope, if anything, though...
Why doesn't Sora have a lightsaber keyblade yet? Oh, my God.
Although, like, there is a friend of mine who adamantly does not want to see that happen.
That's going to happen.
Yeah.
It's going to happen. Whether your friend wants it or not, all of them like making money.
Well, part of it, like, she did have a good point of, like, at least within the first and second game, there was, like, a narrative reason for some of the worlds that you went to. And, they were going to, like, Alice in Wonderland, and then, of course, like, Aladdin, which are not typically like the top tier of Disney films, but now
Right, but I mean, at the very end,
Yeah.
they had your second to last, or even like kind of last area was like Hollow Bastion was fucking Beauty and the Beast
Exactly,
is key tier of Disney films.
Well, yeah, but that's the thing; those were Disney films. But now they got Marvel and DC, and if they just kind of cram those in,
Marvel and Lucas.
I mean Marvel and Lucas films.
Right.
So now it'll just be like that thing of like, well, hey, we own these, shove them in there, regardless of if they fit thematically or not.
I think they can fit thematically because there's it's already been revealed, and I had to look back what's been revealed, but I know this one has like Pixar stuff is in there. Like there's Toy Story World, which is like that should be thematically weird because it's not like it's not like Sora's coming in and it's like, hi, I'm Sora. What are you, tiny little toy?
Yeah.
It is like, hi, I'm Sora. Hey, you're Buzz Lightyear.
Yeah.
What is that giant bed in the distance? Like they actually come in as if they're toys, which is awesome and kind of cool. I think that's sort of the idea behind it. It's always been that these are, these are all worlds that are existing in their spheres.
Yeah.
But because you are part of the traveling teams, originally it was Mickey and traveling between this, and he's sort of the emperor, if you like the universe person. I'm excited to see what they will do. Obviously, it will time will tell. But yeah, it's one of those games that I know is going to come out. It's going to happen one day because 15 happened.
Oh yeah.
And Japanese investors are like, yeah, that's great. What happened to this other project we sank 3 billion yen into? What do you mean what other project we see? You know what project I'm talking about. And Japanese investors are
well, as we see, they're already trying to milk 15 Fallout.
They have to. Do you understand how long that? Do you understand how long that's been on the books?
Yeah.
Like 15 as a game. Remember, and for those who do not remember this, began its life as 13 verses.
Yeah.
And that didn't happen because the 13 franchise didn't take off as well as they thought. So they said, we sank some money in this. We could spin it and make it 15. Let's spin it and make it 15 for Lord's sakes because we need the money. Boom. And that became 15.
Oh, no, I'm just like talking about like how they announced the 15 mini thing.
Yep.
And also the more weirder thing, like have you been seeing the advertisements for that kingdom building app game that they have based around it?
I want to play it just out of curiosity, but they gotta fucking milk this shit.
No, but I just see that it's like super painful, especially since they're now following the Game of War template of where they just have like a hot chick in a white outfit.
You can tell. Yeah. You could tell 15 was like this weird dev mess if you understand game development. So it began its life on the PS3, and it goes through a dev cycle, and just as it maybe is close to being done, the PS4 drops, and it's like, fuck. Well, we can either keep making this for the stupid old shitty system and not make a lick of money, or we could spend the time to port over the code to the PS4, the new system. Yeah, and fuck it, make it for PS4 because someone's gonna say this. All right, we started doing that dev thing, and you can tell that the minute's like, hey, Sony has this new initiative for this thing they're calling Project Morpheus. If we make a VR version of the game, whatever the fuck that means. Yeah. Sony will front us. Will give us first look at being on an E3 or Tokyo Game Show stage and X amount of dollars extra for being part of this initiative. So you're making it whether you like it or not because this is taking too fucking long. It's like, shit. Now we got to make this VR experience, whatever the fuck that means. Yeah. Back when like VR was the hip hop thing. I mean, it still is, but the idea of like that was like the thing. And I could just see in my head, just like those are all years being added to the dev cycle. And just like, and then my favorite moment, and I felt so bad for the 15 team. I've said it before and I'll say it again, was that like here they are, like they're just working on 15, like fucking getting all this polish done and whatever the fuck, trying to make the game fucking work. And then they show the shitty trailer where it's just blonde spiky hair. And
Yeah.
just like, do you remember when you played this game back on PlayStation? Well, guess what? We're doing it again, but we're not showing you anything. We're just showing you the spiky hair.
Yeah.
It's not even from the game. It's not even gameplay. It's a fucking rendered scene, and everyone's like, "Oh my god!"
Yeah.
And it was
Everyone
so.
collectively losing it.
I wish I could have been among the 15 dev team, just to see them just look at the reaction, and just have their hearts sink. Like I would love to have had I would have loved to gone to a bar at the end of that announcement, and just drank our sorrow, and done kampai with just bottles of sake, because there's just nothing there's nothing that could be any more demoralizing than just knowing that no one gives a shit about what you're making, and you've been making this for 10 plus years.
Oh yeah,
that's got to be the most demoralizing thing. But yeah, back to Nintendo. That's how I kicked off, because we're almost out of time. So the big news, and I should probably show you a picture of this, because the big thing that came out of the announcement today, beyond a lot of things, was Mario Odyssey, right? The new game that they're doing. So apparently one of the you have, as you know, you can do outfits in Mario Odyssey and whatnot. And since you haven't seen this, I could show it to you. They also showed some new worlds, like an ice kind of world, and there are all these different kingdoms. And one is a beach kingdom. And each area has sort of costumes you can buy that are appropriate for that, or hats or whatever.
Oh, does that mean we're gonna get Mario in a Speedo?
Kinda, sorta. Let's see, because and internet, you already know what's gonna happen to Joe when he sees this. But they announced a new thing. But they're the
Oh no, wait, I figured it out. It's the little V-shaped swimsuit that Borat would wear.
No, the thing that everyone's getting crazy about today is the fact that Mario has nipples.
And
that's apparently what the internet's crazy about today, is the idea that Mario is in a swimsuit with a hat and there's nipples.
And they're freaked out by this. Why?
I don't know. It's
I would be more freaked out if there were tiny little mustaches underneath them.
It's a weird thing to be freaked out about. It's a very strange piece of stuff to be worried about in the grand scheme of things. Is there's nipples, freak out. I'm not really freaked out. People were just kind of becoming the meme, and I'm just that's the meme we're gonna tackle is Mario, bathing suit nipples.
Yeah.
Not in a bad way. It's just it was weird seeing that, because on the thread of the thing, just nipples. I'm just okay, I guess Mario hasn't. Well, why wouldn't he? I don't know.
I mean, if anything, I'm kind of surprised that he doesn't have a big hairy chest or something. That's the thing I'm kind of.
Oh no, this is Japan. Hair. I don't know if you know this, Joe, as an avid anime watcher. But when's the last time you saw on a Japanese, even a manly anime Japanese character? When's the last time you saw hair?
Well, there was the anime show Basilisk, where there was a dude whose little weapon was the hair on his body.
It's such a rarity. Usually it's they're smooth like Ken dolls on that thing.
Well, part of it is just because it's a pain in the ass to animate.
Right,
sometimes.
exactly. It's you never see it's you don't get the really, really big man thing anymore. You don't get the Ren and Stimpy just mounds of body hair.
But I mean, if they're already having textures and rendering around for his mustache and hair, that
I don't know.
You could do that for
I don't know, maybe
a video game character.
Look, just leave be. But yeah, people are everyone is fixated on the nips. People are saying things like, "Great, now I know what Mario's nipples look like," and apparently that's the. Do you think Mario's nipple textures are as high res as his pores and mustache? Just that's apparently that's the thing is the nipples, and I wanted to bring that up because it just when I saw that I was that okay. I watched the Nintendo Direct. I didn't think anything of it. I was cool, whatever, rock on. The game looks fun. The game looks awesome. I mean, it still looks like a hyper creative game. Actually, to be honest, the game, and there's a demo right now for Switch that makes me wish I had a Switch for it, because I'd be curious what they're thinking of it. And the working title is Project Octopath Traveler. It's a new game from Square, a new game in the works from Square Enix, from the producers that made like Bravely Default and Bravely Second, which is exciting to me. But it's that game that had that. They're calling it high-res 2D as their art style. Basically, it was that like 3D backgrounds with sort of sprite 2D animations sort of thing. And they have like a demo on Switch right now. That I'm like, I want to play it. I'm curious. That's like the one thing I saw when they showed it off. It's when Square Enix came out, I was like, this looks cool. Like that was something that was like, this looks different and looks interesting on an art style. I was like, that's cool. And I didn't even know at the time that the guys that made Bravely Default were attached to it. Now that I know that, I'm even more excited because Bravely Default was like the last time I'd played a modern JRPG that was like, this is how you port sort of old school JRPG to a modern era. This is how you do it. This is how you approach it. And I know they're approaching it differently that way, this one, but it's interesting. Like they showed off that. They showed off a lot of other things like Dragon Quest and a couple other JRPGs reporting to 3DS and Switch alike.
I know there's also one, I forget the name, but they're the same company. Like they're owned by Square as well, but they made that I Am Setsune that came out on the Steam. I forget. I think it was called like Lost Sphere, if I'm not
something
mistaken.
Like that. Yeah. There's a lot of things coming down the pipeline that are interesting, and it came out as the news. But it's weird to see the internet like react to those sort of things. Especially when it comes to like what they're gonna fixate upon. I mean, obviously, like when they showed Odyssey off, it was all about it was both about the
hat possessing people,
right? But the idea of like Mario possessing things like a dinosaur or the weird Easter Island looking statues, which I thought was the coolest one because I loved the sunglasses on it for some reason. It just like, that looks cool. I like the idea of a giant Easter Island Mario statue, and I want that in my collection of things. Just a giant Easter head statue. But it's those things like what the internet fixates upon, and I didn't even. It was such this like thing that I was like, okay, cool, he's on a beach. I didn't even notice it until the internet's like, did you see Mario's nipples? I can't believe I see Mario's nipples. I'm like, that's what we're gonna fixate upon? Okay, I guess.
Yeah.
There's other really cool visual things on there that are happening. The idea of like Mario possessing a freaking stick and that, but again, it's the game's coming out soon. There's a lot of that, and they also announced some new maps for Splatoon 2 as well, and new weapons and everything else. It's cool to see like Nintendo on top. Yeah. But because of that, like I know that like I'm not gonna get a Mother 3 anytime soon. We're not gonna probably see an Animal Crossing on Switch anytime soon. Because again, it's not. They don't need to they've already given us what we wanted. We're working on a Metroid game. We got Mario coming down. We got some new stuff for Zelda. We got some amiibos to purchase. You want a special Odyssey Switch? Here you go. Like they don't need to do anything crazy now. They can hold those cards until shit calms down. Oh yeah. Until they're not number one, then that's when you start to see the hey, look guys, here's an Animal Crossing game. Hey, look guys, here's a new XYZ game. Yeah. Because again, we said at the beginning and we said it earlier, like I couldn't even get an SNES Classic if I wanted to right now. Yeah. And it's not even out yet. Mm-hmm. I couldn't, I remember when the NES Classic was out, and I was like, I'll buy it when it comes out. I'm not going to pre-order it. And it's just like, well, guess what? If you want one, you better have bought it like 8 weeks ago and sold your firstborn, because you're not going to have this.
And woken up at least 4 days prior to them releasing
and it's just like, my brain is like, motherfucker, because I built a fucking Pi into an actual Nintendo case. Yeah. I have every ROM and then some. I can play Star Fox 2 right now because someone got a hold of the prototype years ago and fucking dumped that shit. Yeah. That being said, and then most likely that's the ROM that's going to be on the damn cart. That being said, I know that because these are selling like hotcakes, and there's some interesting things for sure that I think are cool, that I'm almost certain are going to come to whenever the Switch does have the Virtual Console stuff. Like, do you notice like the SNES Classic has this like rewind feature now? Like that's becoming the thing to do, where you had the ability to say like, did you die? well, why did you just rewind and not die? Like that's on a lot of the Mega Man Classic or DuckTales has that as well. I think the Capcom's right. Capcom Afternoon, whatever, has the I think the first one that did it was like Battletoads. Or the rare collection, where you could like rewind back, which sounds weird to just like you have a certain amount of frames that you can rewind back to, and it's like there you go. It's almost kind of like the what was that? Was Sands of Time? Yeah.
Prince of Persia.
Right, exactly. But yeah, it's interesting to see like that, seeing all these sort of features built in these systems, and knowing that that's going to be the next version of Virtual Console whenever it comes out for Switch. Have you got a Switch yet?
No, I have yet to.
I'm gonna try to buy one. There's one that they're coming out with specifically for Mario Odyssey. Like it's a package. I'll put a picture of it here so you can see what it looks like. It's right there. In fact, we'll just go to Engadget and you can see what it looks like. Right there. Comes with a carrying case and shit like that.
Yeah. My younger brother got one for Breath of the Wild.
Right,
like that.
Similar thing. I may actually, because that might be the time to buy it then, and there might be more in stock around that time.
Oh yeah.
That might be one I'll buy. Because a lot of people already have a Switch, and people who don't have a Switch, may wait for that. Like that might be the cycle to finally go mine.
Yeah.
Because I'm not fucking paying like $600-700 for a video game system.
And there's no reason to.
No, that's Bugsy. Like all these things that are just like,
if anyone falls for that, you're a stooge.
Yeah. Well, because even I love that Fizeme had said like, don't buy any of these overpriced ones for the love of God.
Yeah,
and it's like, oh, by the way, we're gonna make new ones for the NES Classic in summer because we want that money. Damn it!
Yeah,
we want that $80. We don't want you spending. We don't want that on our name. And I love that that's what's gonna happen, because it's just it's seeing that like market just tank, and I can't say anything good about that. Joe, we're out of time. We've talked for about an hour. I know we talked about comic books and your thing for about an hour. All right, Joe. Let's say people want to actually, they've heard you talking. One, they like you. Two, they're really curious on what an indie comic that has a template can be made, and more importantly, your future stuff. Where can people go to get all this new awesome?
All right. I still have my Tumblr account of at infinityjoe.tumblr.com. I have Twitter at @theinfinity_Joe. And I've recently started up my own Twitch channel, and I'm hoping to start doing setting up a schedule.
You want to get into game streaming, which is something.
Well, a little bit of both gaming, animation, and drawing. Like basically, just like hey, I'm going to be working on these things if anyone wants to watch it.
Yeah,
so forth.
The creative side for sure is that you can actually have. I don't know how much people do the creative side of things interactive, or at least that way, because you could have some fun where it's like, all right. This week we're gonna sketch the chat room sort of thing, and or have fun like 1 minute sketches, or I don't know that kind of thing.
There's a lot of people that already have like certain things that they set up.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Or like people who've done it in the past from the streams I've seen. But you can find that at twitch.tv/infinityjoe. And then if you want to check out my book, it's called Genya's Challenge, and you can find that on Lulu. There should be a link in the show notes.
Yeah, we'll put a link directly in the show notes. And I imagine it's also on your respective sites and your respective social accounts in terms of like.
Because I have noticed there are some weird things with Lulu when I try to find it myself.
It's a lot. Lulu's never been the best at URLs because they're a giant storefront, much like anything else. But we'll put a link directly in the show notes. And more importantly, if there's any, I'm certain all your other sites also just if anyone watching live, it's. I found the link because you gave it to me directly, but I know it's on your social. I saw it at one point in one of your social feeds, if not all your.
And I'm probably gonna have to find like other avenues, like maybe just put it up on as like a Dropbox.
You could do just make a Bitly link directly to the thing in general. Of course, you can find me. I'm at Vincent404 there on the Twitters and on the chat rooms, everything else in between. If you want to catch previous episodes of the podcast, you go to our website, CosmicRadio.TV /8BitLife. There you'll find links to show notes, previous episodes, as mentioned before. And of course, after you've spent all your non-virtual dollars on things, maybe you get some bits ahead of time to send Joe's way while you can buy them cheap. Head over to patreon.com /8BitLife, and it'll just become bigger, better, and more awesomer. So that is it for the day. As you do next time, I'm talking to the completely and utterly random. Bye, people.